night was a thick, inky blanket draped over Highway 75. Just me, my rig, and the endless ribbon of asphalt disappearing into the darkness. I'd been driving for what felt like an eternity, fueled by stale coffee and the hum of the engine. The world outside my cab was a blur of shadowy trees and the occasional glint of a mile marker. That's when I saw her. A lone figure, standing on the shoulder. Thumb stuck out like a question mark against the black. Normally, I wouldn't even think about stopping. It's rule number 1 out here. You don't pick up strangers, especially not in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of the night, but something was different. She wasn't just standing there. She was illuminated by a soft, ethereal glow. Like the moon had decided to shine a spotlight just for her. She was wearing a simple, old-fashioned dress, and even from a distance, I could see she was shivering. Against my better judgment, Primera slowed down, the air brakes hissing in protest. As I pulled over, my headlights washed over her, and my heart did a little stutter step. She was young, maybe early 20s, with wide, frightened eyes and long, dark hair plastered to her face by what I assumed was rain, though the sky was clear. She looked lost. Completely and utterly lost. I rolled down the passenger window. "You all right, miss? Bit late to be out here by yourself." She flinched at the sound of my voice, then hurried over, her movements jerky and unnatural. "Please," she whispered, her voice like dry leaves rustling. "My car. It broke down a few miles back. My phone's dead. Can you take me to the next town? Please." Her plea was so desperate, so genuine, that the caution I usually lived by evaporated. How could I leave her out here? I nodded. "Sure, hop in. Next town's about 30 miles up. Name's Frank." "Sarah," she said, climbing into the cab. She pulled the door shut with a soft click and huddled against it, wrapping her arms around herself. A strange, earthy smell filled the cab, like damp soil and something else. Something sweet and decaying, like overripe fruit. I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to the woods. "Thanks, Frank. You're a lifesaver," she said, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Don't mention it," I mumbled, putting the truck back in gear. We rode in silence for a few minutes. The initial awkwardness began to curdle into something else. Unease. I kept glancing over at her. In the dim glow of the dashboard lights, her skin was pale, almost translucent, and she was still shivering, despite the heat blasting. "So, what happened to your car?" I asked, trying to fill the silence. She didn't look at me. It just stopped. Everything went dark. Her voice was flat, devoid of emotion. Something was wrong. The way she spoke, the way she sat so rigidly, it was setting my teeth on edge. I tried to make small talk, asking where she was from, where she was headed. Her answers were short, vague. It was like talking to a ghost. I decided to just focus on driving. The sooner I got her to town, the better. That's when I noticed her feet. She'd kicked off her wet shoes, which were now sitting in a small puddle on the floor mat. Her bare feet were resting near the edge of her seat. And they were wrong. My eyes darted from the road to her feet and back again. I must be tired, I thought, seeing things. But I looked again, a longer look this time. Her feet were backwards. The heels were where the toes should be, and the toes, long and crooked, pointed towards the back of the seat. My blood ran cold. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles turning white. It wasn't a trick of the light. It wasn't my tired mind playing games. Her feet were inverted. My mind raced, scrambling for a rational explanation. A birth defect, a horrific injury. But the way they were perfectly formed, just reversed. It defied all logic. The sweet, cloying smell in the cab suddenly seemed more sinister. The stories my grandpa used to tell me, old superstitions from the backwoods where he grew up, came rushing back. Tales of creatures that looked human but weren't. Creatures you met on lonely roads at night. Creatures with their feet on backwards. I had to get her out of my truck. Now, my heart was pounding against my ribs like a drum. I tried to keep my voice steady. "You know," I said, forcing a casual tone, "I just remembered. I've got to make a stop before I get to town. There's a little rest area just up here. I need to check on my load. It was a lie, but it was the best I could come up with. No, she said, and for the first time, her voice had an edge, a cold, sharp command. Keep driving. It'll just take a second, I insisted, my voice trembling slightly. She turned her head slowly, and the look in her eyes was no longer frightened. It was ancient and hungry. The dashboard lights reflected in her pupils, making them gleam like a predator's. I said, keep driving. Panic clawed at my throat. I stomped on the gas, the engine roaring in response. My only thought was to get to the next town, to the lights, to other people. The 30 miles felt like 1,000. The silence in the cab was deafening, broken only by the engine's drone and my own ragged breathing. I didn't dare look at her again. I just stared at the road, praying for the glow of civilization to appear on the horizon. Every shadow seemed to leap out at me. Every tree looked like a grasping hand. I could feel her watching me. I could feel the cold radiating from her side of the cab. The earthy smell was stronger now, suffocating. Then she spoke again, her voice a low, chilling whisper that seemed to come from all around me. You're a kind man, Frank, but kindness is a weakness out here. I saw the first faint lights of the town ahead, a gas station, a motel sign. Hope surged through me. I was almost there. I pressed the accelerator even harder. It's a shame, she continued, her voice filled with a strange, hollow sadness. I was getting hungry. As we passed the first streetlight, a brilliant white light flooded the cab. I risked a glance. The passenger seat was empty. The door was still closed, the window still up. But she was gone. The only things left were the small puddle of water on the floor mat, and that sickly sweet, rotten smell, and the 2 wet footprints. Perfectly formed, but pointing the wrong way. I didn't stop at the gas station. I didn't stop at the motel. I drove straight through that town and the next. And I didn't stop until the sun came up and burned the memory of those wide, hungry eyes from the back of my eyelids. I still drive the highways. It's my job. But I don't drive at night anymore. Not on those lonely stretches. And if I see someone on the side of the road, no matter how lost or helpless they look, I just keep on driving. Because some rules, you learn the hard way. And some things, once you've seen them, you can never unsee. You just have to pray they don't see you back. Thanks for listening. And remember to subscribe for more stories from the road. Stay safe out there.